Namaste. A big warm welcome to all our viewers. Thank you so much for joining in once again. It's your repeated presence that keeps inspiring Pavitra to keep doing better and to keep providing all of you with enriching and meaningful content. It is the honest aim of Pavitra to build a culture of wellness on all levels mind, body, and soul. With that aim in mind, we have with us someone who's like a torchbearer of Ayurveda in India. Her wisdom and passion in Ayurveda is something to be spoken about. It is exemplary. So she had graced this platform a few weeks back, and she had spoken about the three doshas and how each one of us is a unique combination of these three doshas and how they stay with us throughout our lives. And had also shared some fantastic Ayurvedic tea recipes. But today's focus is going to be on one of the most underrated organs of our body, our second brain, our gut, and its connection with our primary brain. So it's my honor to be introducing you to our eminent guest of today, Dimple Janda. She is the founder of Prana and is an Ayurvedic health coach and a gut and colon health expert. She worked in multiple and diverse industries, donned so many hats before leaving all of that to follow her gut, literally and figuratively. Thank you so much, Dimple, for joining and gracing this platform once again. Thank you so much. So looking forward to this session. Really excited.
Thank you so much, Sujata and Neha Arora, for organizing this again and again, and Pavitra Connect for doing such a fantastic job of educating people on the importance of good health and immunity. And I had a fantastic time last time talking about Ayurveda. So,
That's so good to know.
happy to discuss information on gut health with you as and when the
Yeah.
audience.
So we can start with what exactly is gut. The common misconception is that the gut is a stomach. So is it a misconception or like, expand your thoughts on that?
So, it's funny. Most people don't even know what a gut means. This is my niece. She just wants to say hello to you guys. She
Hi.
generally is part of all interviews nowadays. Okay. So I'm going to tell you what a gut is. The gut is basically where food passes after digestion. It's your small intestine, large intestine, and colon. But what has happened in school is, in schools and colleges.
Are you strawberry favorite?
We say goodbye to her now. Okay? Because she generally enters a class and she asks my students, are you Vata Pitta? Because she's learned Vata Pitta Kapha. So she tends to ask all my students, are you Vata Pitta? I was like, no, some of them are Kapha also.
I yet don't know.
Okay. So the gut is where the food passes after digestion. But in schools and colleges, we've isolated the organs and studied it. We've isolated liver, gallbladder, spleen, intestine, small intestine, large intestine. The biggest problem with modern science is we dissect and isolate everything. We're not holistic about our approach to good health.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the biggest problem. Otherwise, modern science has evolved a lot. We've understood the body like nobody's business. But we've taken ourselves back many years by dissecting organs, not understanding the relationship between the organs. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't say in a family that the mother's the one with a weak immune system. The father, brother, sister, fine. Genetically, they're all connected, right? Can you separate them in a family and say, this person's gene is different from this person and that person? You can't. A family is made of all units.
One unit.
To be fully functional. Yes. And the same rule applies to the human body. It is a functional unit, right? So the surprising thing is the gut is actually connected to the brain, to the skin, to the central nervous system, to all diseases in the human body. You'll be surprised how many diseases is connected to the gut and colon. So the gut, like I said, is large intestine, small intestine, and colon. And the colon alone is responsible for 90% of the diseases we experience in the human body.
90% of the is where our the colon is a part of the large intestine, or it's a separate entity. I mean,
it's the end part of the large intestine. So what happens after you've eaten food? The digestion happens in the mouth and stomach. Okay, digestion begins at the mouth. We say, chew your food 32 times because it creates that much saliva. And then saliva goes into the stomach, helping you to digest that food. Okay, once that is done, the digestive juices in the digested food goes into the small intestine where absorption and assimilation of nutrients happens. The food gets converted, the digestive juices gets converted into nutrients, which are easily edible for the body. From here, the nutrients are sent to the plasma to create plasma in the body. After the plasma is created, the purified part of plasma becomes blood. The purified part of blood becomes fat. The purified part of fat becomes muscle. and the purified part of muscle becomes bone, then bone marrow, then comes the egg and sperm. So it takes 28 days for the food you ate today to become part of your sperm and egg. Imagine 28-day cycle. What you've eaten today will not give you good skin tomorrow. It takes 28 days for the food to give you
Probably
results.
longer.
No, 28 days is enough ideally for the body to receive, because that's why we have the 28-day moon cycle. That's why, whatever diet you follow, you can't do quick fix diet. I did a diet today, hence tomorrow I'll have glowing skin. No. I did a diet today, hence my diabetes will get reversed. No. It takes 28 days for your body to start showing some difference. We give medicines for 14, 15 days in Ayurveda because 14 days is 7 days into 2 cycles. Everything is calculated in 7 days in Ayurveda. 7 days into 2, 7 days into 4, 7 days into 6, 7 days into 9. That's how we calculate. Now the gut is where the digestive juices come, right? It is directly connected to the brain through a neurosis, which sends signals every micromillion second. Even before I tap my finger, the message goes to the brain. So tell me, when you feel anxious, scared, excited, happy, where do you feel it first?
In the gut.
You feel it in the gut.
Yeah, you get the
And you
runs.
get nervous.
Yeah.
And if you get nervous, have you noticed you run to the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not the brain that's functioning when you're nervous. It's your gut that is responding to that feeling and emotion. So emotions are created in the gut. Okay. Now the gut is directly connected to the brain in such a way. Say if you have gases, flatulence, indigestion, bloating, acid reflux, or heaviness, can you focus in a meeting? Or constipation?
Not at all.
Reason being, the gut
happens in the
brain.
gut. Sorry. So whatever happens in the gut directly affects what's happening in the brain.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So no wonder it's called the second brain. I mean, that's a connection, the gut-brain connection.
There is another reason why it's called the second brain. You know, the neurons in your body helps you to feel things, right? The neurons in the brain helps you to feel. The central nervous system is made of neurons that are firing every time. So if I pinch myself, I feel the pinch. If I have touch of hot substance, I feel it. The gut has more neurons than the brain. The gut has more
the primary brain.
So there are some scientists who actually say the gut is the biggest brain in the body, not just the second brain. Look at it.
I mean, I think there are more nerves. Sorry?
The brain is this big. The brain is this big.
Yeah.
The gut is this big. So what is bigger, the gut or the brain? And the gut has more neurons in the brain. So who's feeling more, the gut or the brain?
And this is just not spoken about in conventional medicine, and I wonder why. I mean, we need to change the status quo.
Totally, totally. I'll tell you what, gut is a word that I myself learned after the age of 30. I didn't know there's something called gut until then. We use it very placidly in our language. Say in a business meeting, you're sitting, okay? So say you, Neha, and everybody's sitting and brainstorming on what seminar to keep for next Pavitra Connect. You say, I have a gut feeling that, this workshop will work. Another person says, I have a brain feeling that we should do this. My analytical skills are saying this. Another person says, I have a heart feeling. Who will you follow?
Gut, I think.
Gut. But isn't that silly? Gut is where gases are, flatulences, poop, urine is. Why would you listen to a person who's thinking from his gut where the poop and urine is? There is some logic in it.
Yeah, I'm sure. You mean to say there are more nerves in the gut than in the brain?
Yes. So, it is proven medically that the gut is connected directly to the brain. There is a direct telephone line between the gut and brain. It sends messages every micromillion seconds, and they're constantly communicating in a two-way relationship. The gut tells the brain, I'm happy, I received some good food. Tell me what digestive juice to make. The brain then sends a message. Why don't you make this saliva, this, digestive juice, this bile and that and that. This is a pizza. This is a burger. The brain is giving messages to the gut and identifying the food, saying, oh, you're eating a pizza today. You can't use the same digestive juice that you use for digesting a khichdi. Khichdi and pizza are two different families, two different digestion. Then the gut sends a message back to the brain saying the food has started breaking down, but it's reacting, it's curdling, it's creating a toxic gas. What do? The brain says, okay, we need to eliminate this. This doesn't belong to us. So there's a direct communication happening. Your skin, hair, and your other organs, your hormones sends messages to the brain maybe once in 2-3 seconds. But the gut is sending every micromillion second. So the gut is literally the wife to the brain, the nagging wife to the brain saying, hey, you better listen to me, or I'm going to make your life a living hell. Can a husband ignore a wife when the wife is angry? I've seen henpecked husbands. That's what happens to the brain. The brain becomes a henpecked husband if the gut is not happy. If the wife is not happy, will the husband have a peace of mind? Impossible.
Yeah, so no wonder. So suppose, our gut health is not optimized. That's why we feel like low on energy or, anxious or nervous or, all these uh, negative
I'll
emotions.
tell you where the fatigue comes from. Now, the gut has been proven to be the second brain. It has more neurons, more ability to sense. So you feel emotions in the gut, not in the heart, not in the brain. You feel empathy here, but emotions are created in the gut. Number three, the gut is the thinnest lining in the human body. Okay, it's thinner than your hair strand. So it's literally cells held together like this in a conjunction. It's just cells held together like this. Because of a sedentary lifestyle where we're constantly sitting on chairs and couch and lying on the bed, we're not sitting on the floor, we're not exercising or walking 10,000 steps. There's no mobility in the middle part of the body. What happens? One is sedentary lifestyle. The cells start becoming loose like this. Okay, there's no tightness. Second, we're eating a lot of refined foods in our diet, like refined salt, refined sugar, refined ghee, refined oil, refined flour, maida. What is refined? Refined means extremely fine, gone through a machine, and it has become very fine. So fine that what it does, it creates holes in the gut between the cells. The cells have become loose, and the food is leaking from the gut into the bloodstream. Then the blood doesn't know whether it's good food or good nutrients or bad nutrients. It goes in an anti-body or an immunity mode, destroying everything. So you ate 1,000 calories. You probably absorbed 400 calories. 400 got leaked. 200 calories got eliminated through the colon. So your elimination was not 100%. Your absorption was not 100%. There are 400 calories leaked into your bloodstream. They sometimes settle under the skin. Because the body is trying to eliminate it through the pores in the form of sweat. It's trying to push it, but the toxins are too big. They become toxic and they get collected on the skin, becoming acne, rosacea, eczema, psoriasis, urticaria, pimples, hyperpigmentation. All skin diseases are caused due to leaky gut syndrome. That is one. All neurological disorders like anxiety, stress, depression, lack of coordination, lack of concentration is caused due to unhealthy colon and leaky gut. Then all your psychosomatic health issues, the same as neurological disorders. Parkinson, Alzheimer's is neurological. Psychosomatic is all your anxiety, stress, depression. All your sinus-related, bronchial-related disorders like constant cold and cough, because the toxins are getting collected everywhere. They're getting recirculated back to the bloodstream and different organs. You have brain fog. You can't think. Suddenly you can't think clear. Have you noticed the day you're constipated, your whole day is a mess? But the day you have a good bowel movement, you're like, I can conquer the world today. You really feel that. And that is a genuine feeling. It is not accidental. Don't undermine the importance of the colon and gut. So, it starts creating psychosomatic health issues, neurological disorders, bronchial disorders like cold, cough, food intolerances, allergies. Then it starts creating gastrointestinal disorders like acid reflux, burning sensation, indigestion, bloating, cancer, colon polyps, Crohn's disease, leaky gut syndrome. Musculoskeletal disorders like arthritis, osteoporosis is also triggered by that because you're losing nutrients. So your body also starts letting go of calcium. Then cold extremities, athlete's foot, toenail fungus is caused due to a leaky gut syndrome because these toxins leak from the gut and going to different parts of the body. Just see, a leaky gut syndrome can then cause chronic fatigue disorder. Constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome is just a small warning, trigger signal from your body that something is wrong.
Yeah. So
That's
no
where it
wonder
all
people who suffer from psychosomatic disorders like stress, anxiety, or mood swings, they tend to always have gut issues.
Yes,
I mean, it's
always,
like that's
always.
the connection. And so, what is the cause of the high prevalence of this, term that's being thrown around so much nowadays, leaky gut syndrome?
It's actually a two-way relationship between the brain and the gut. Okay, sometimes the gut is reacting to the brain, and sometimes the brain is also reacting to the gut. Now, if your brain is stressed, if you're going through a lot of excessive thoughts and anxiety and stress, your brain is so busy processing the thoughts, it is not available to the gut to process the food. So then the gut is working solo to process the food. Correct? The gut needs to work as a companion. Now, a husband and a wife have to work together to raise a child or to even create a child in the first place. Correct? So the brain and the gut are literally like a married couple. They have to work together to create digestive food and digestive juices and nutrients from the food. Now, the brain is so busy with a lot of anxiety, worry, stress, and modern day issues, constantly worrying about materialism, which is why lockdown was the best thing that happened to the gut. Because now we're more focused on the gut. When we're eating food, you're supposed to use the panchandriya. Panchandriya means five senses. You need to touch the food so that the message can go to the brain on whether the food is hot or cold or rough, hard or soft. Then you need to see the color of the food so that the brain can decipher whether it's going to be a spicy food or a sweet food. You need to hear the sound of the food so that the brain can decide how strong the acids should be in the stomach to digest that food. Then you need to smell the food whether it's raw or whether it's unripe, whether it's rotten, whether it's ripe, whether it's healthy, whether it's well cooked. And then you need to taste it in your mouth. There are 5 indriyas, panchandriya, and there are 6 shadarasas on your tongue, which tells you the taste of food: bitter, pungent, astringent, sweet, sour, salty. Based on the taste of the food, also the saliva is created, the digestive juices are created. When you're not using these senses, you're constantly on the phone, texting, and then you're on the mobile, the laptop, and then you're watching TV and looking at, a deer being hunted down by a lion or a tiger. What will the brain do? The brain will release cortisol because it's getting stressed looking at that. You're looking at the news channel, about all the negative news in the world. The brain starts releasing cortisol instead of releasing digestive juices. Indigestion begins. That is the tipping point of an unhealthy gut. It begins with indigestion. Then it moves on to constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome. These are your first trigger signs that something is wrong.
Absolutely. Wow. So it's it's amazing. It's so fascinating. I mean, what perfect mechanism, our bodies are. What perfect. I mean, the cells are so intelligent. I think they have the power to heal themselves given the right internal terrain and the right lifestyle interventions.
To allow the cells to function, the cells have an intuitive intelligence. They come with a manual from Mother Nature on how to produce itself. Now, what happens when we have packaged foods with high preservatives that has a high shelf life of 3 months, 6 months? The preservatives can survive on the shelf for 3 months, 6 months, which means it can survive in your stomach also for 3 months, 6 months. Okay, because the food cannot rot on its own. Okay, it's laced with preservatives, heavy metals, and minerals, which unhealthy minerals. What does it do? It starts getting lost in your central nervous system, which is sending messages from the brain to different cells, telling them how to behave. Now, say the pipeline is corrupted with some blockages. The pipeline or the drainage pipe in your house is corrupted with some blockages. Then the message can't go through, right? Even with the telephone line. So what happens is cells don't receive messages from the brain. They start misbehaving and the cells become rogue cells. They start mutating uncontrollably, causing what is called cancer. Such a simplified understanding that if it can survive on the shelf for 6 months, it can survive in my body for 6 months. Understanding that eating live foods with live digestive enzymes like fruits and vegetables, buttermilk, probiotics, like yogurt and buttermilk and yeast, like, idli, dosa, dokla, these are good for your health. Beer and wine is also okay for your health once in a while because it has good probiotics, it has bacteria. But having dead food, dead animals, what does it do? It has no intelligence because it is dead. An apple has an intelligence which communicates to the stomach saying, this is a digestive enzyme that I have. I can self-digest myself. So you give me only 10% of your digestive juices, I'm fine. Then the rice and the grains come, the pulses. They say, okay, I don't have roughage. I can't move on my own. You need to give me more digestive juices, liquefy me completely, keep me in the stomach longer, and then push me down into the small intestine. Don't push me down fast because I don't have any digestive enzyme. The meat comes dead. It doesn't communicate with the brain. It doesn't communicate with your stomach. It is dead enzymes and there is no digestive enzymes. Plus, you're consuming the cortisol of that animal. So I'm not promoting vegan, veg, or non-veg lifestyle. Forget any of those choices of diet. What I'm promoting is good gut health. The gut is like baby soft. It's so gentle, so delicate. What you want to put inside that gut is your choice. Okay, you can't just eat unconsciously without awareness and then say, I am suffering. You're suffering because of your choices. You're the sum of all your choices.
Absolutely. I'm guilty of all this. So I'll share my story after a little while, So then, okay. Yeah. So then how do we optimize our gut health and our gut flora? I mean, through this ancient wisdom.
Okay, I'll give you some
before that also, what are your thoughts on probiotics like kombucha and since you touched upon that, kefir and
sure. Maybe I'll touch upon
probiotics.
So honestly, your body doesn't need man-made food. Kombucha, sorkat, and soya is one of the worst things. Soya is the worst thing. Kombucha and sorkat is at least okay. Soya is one of the worst things. It's man-made. I'm sorry to say, I ended up in surgery because of having too much soya milk. My nose got inflamed. Because of this, the sinuses got inflamed and I couldn't breathe. And they had to open up my nose with a hot iron rod being scrubbed inside my nose. to open up the bones so that I could breathe. It was a painful surgery, and God forbid anybody has to go through that procedure. Please don't have artificially man-made foods made in a laboratory or a clinic. They've started making mock meat in a laboratory. What the hell? Why do you want to have it? Why can't you have foods that are made by nature? You were created in the womb of Mother Nature, not in a man-made machine or a clinic, right? So that's rule number one. When it comes to probiotics, your natural source of probiotics is raw fruits. Chewing raw fruits, empty stomach, 8 in the morning and again at 4 in the evening, before your dinner, 2 hours before your dinner, enhances the gut flora and bacteria in your gut. And you need to invest in your gut flora every single day. It is not something that happens once a month. I drank a bottle of kombucha today, I'm done for the rest of the month. That's not how it is. Every day you must invest in it. Okay, so once you enhance your gut flora, your gut bacteria starts working on the other foods that are difficult to digest. Your gut flora, by the way, is directly connected to your mental and emotional health. It is proven by modern science. If the gut flora is not balanced, it should be 85% good bacteria, 15% bad bacteria is permissible. If it's not balanced, it can affect your mental and emotional health directly. When you are constipated or having diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, or indigestion, or a leaky gut syndrome, you will have imbalanced emotions, irritability, short temper, frustration, guilty feeling, anxiety, fear of isolation. These are feelings directly connected to an unhealthy gut. So kombucha and sorkat are okay, but it's only suitable for a kapha body type, which is made of earth and water, because they can digest a strong drink like that. Vata should not have it. Pitta should not have it. Pitta, if they have it, they get a burning sensation, in fact, if they have fermented foods. Vata cannot digest something so strong. So for Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, all three, you can have fruits empty stomach, 8 a.m., 4 p.m. You can have idli, dosa, dhokla once in a week. You can have sardo bread, freshly baked sardo bread that's also loaded with probiotics. You can also have buttermilk. Buttermilk is the best source of probiotics and protein and bacteria. Yogurt is not suitable for all three body types. It's suitable only for Vata because Pitta gets a burning sensation from yogurt. Kapha puts on weight. So Vata can have yogurt also with some honey. When you have so many rich natural sources of probiotics, why do you want to have man-made drinks in a bottle with shelf life? So that's my take on probiotics.
You would want to tell them how they can find out the three dosha, I mean, what doshas they are. I mean,
Yes.
they can go to your website, and who weren't there last time.
Yeah, what you guys can do is www.pranabydimplejangra.com. Okay, I'll write in the spelling. You can just log on to the website. There's a dosha quiz. You just have to answer 15 basic questions on the kind of nails, skin, teeth, hair, sleep patterns, bowel patterns, and emotional patterns you have. You'll be able to arrive at your prakriti. If you're a dual body type, you might not be able to arrive at it because it's a complex body type. Only a doctor can help you. You can do a consultation if you want. We can offer a complimentary package, a discount package for Pavitra Connect clients. Other than that, what you can do is, if you're having dosha imbalance, the quiz will not give you correct results. Because instead of answering questions on your core personality, you're answering questions based on the discomfort you're feeling. So definitely do the dosha quiz. If you're in a state of balance and good health, you'll get your prakriti immediately within 5 minutes. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha, the three body types. Kapha generally experiences imbalance in the top part of the body, this part. So if you're constantly having imbalance here, then that means you're a Kapha Prakriti ideally. If you're experiencing discomfort in the middle part of the body, that's a Pitta Prakriti. They have imbalances in their skin, sweat, eyes, stomach, small intestine. The lower part of the body, from the navel and lower, is Vata imbalance. If you're experiencing gases, bowel distension, abdomen distension, constipation, dryness, roughness in the skin and hair, musculoskeletal disorders, joint disorders, and that means that's a Vata imbalance. So these are the three doshas. But don't worry about getting into the detail of it. It takes 5 days of studying also to get into it. If you want to study also, we'll offer you the packages for that, the discount package. But most importantly, I'd like you to understand how you can enhance your gut at home without having to run to a doctor.
That's why we gathered here, that's the crux of today's session.
So very easy tips I'll give you. Rule number 1, enhance your gut flora. Like I said, eating raw fruits at 8 in the morning and 4 in the evening. Always make sure you eat it alone or leave it alone. The rule with fruits is, do not, under any circumstance, mix any fruit with milk, with the exception of mango. Even apple milkshake and banana milkshake is poisonous in the long run. Okay, it's toxic. So do not mix fruits with milk. Do not mix fruits with vegetables. Do not make smoothies. It is poisonous for the body. Do not mix fruits with grains and pulses. Making a bowl of oats and putting fruits on top, you think you're doing a good job. You know, it's an Instagram worthy picture. It's terrible for your stomach and gut.
Mixing fruits with leaves, greens,
No.
with spinach and, no?
Strictly,
Herbs.
a lot of people have started doing, you know, spinach and celery
Green
juice with a
smoothie?
green apple. They're
Yeah.
like, it's green and color, let's mix it. There is no logic in that. The fruit has a different digestive enzyme and the vegetable has a different digestive enzyme. Fruits are either sweet, sour, or astringent in taste. Vegetables are either bitter, pungent, or salty in taste. They're different digestive enzyme. Fruits requires only 1 hour in the stomach. Vegetables requires 2 hours in the stomach. Fruits requires 1 hour in the small intestine, 1 hour in the large intestine. Vegetables require 2 hours in the small intestine, 2 hours in the large intestine. So the digestion of fruits is 3 hours. The digestion of vegetables is 6 hours. If you mix it together, they don't agree with each other. They become toxic. They create ama, also called poison inside the body. That's the rule with fruits.
Okay.
So that's rule number 1, enhance your gut flora. Rule number 2, eat local, live global. It's such a simple statement, magical statement. I'll tell you why. In a desert in the Middle East, nature naturally grows dates. In the coastal areas, nature naturally grows coconut water and rice. Correct? There is a reason why it is doing. In the desert area, the weather is dry and arid and hot. Dates is cooling and moisturizing. So when you eat dates, you're balancing your body and acclimatizing to the weather there. When you have tender coconut water in the coastal area is salty air, but the sweet tender coconut water reduces your blood pressure, which usually goes up with the salt in the air. Nature's already giving you food based on your topographic, geographic condition. So eat local. Rule number 2, do not eat imported fruits and imported vegetables at all. That is not suitable for your body type. What Europeans eat, Europeans should eat. What Indians eat, Indians should eat. Because your body is a collection of the local bacteria. Your body is a collection of earth, water, fire, airspace from here. Did you import the earth, water, fire, airspace from another country to make your human body? No. So why will you eat foods that are imported from another country? So eat local, live global. Number 3, eat seasonal. Stop eating unseasonal fruits and vegetables. They are loaded with preservatives to make them survive the shelf life until the next season. Number 3. Number 4, replace raw foods with cooked foods in Ayurveda. Reason being, raw salad, please understand, is home for parasites and bacteria also. When you eat raw salads, your body has to work harder to fight off those bacteria and parasites first. Why would you eat parasites knowingly? Cooking it kills the parasites and gives you only the good bacteria. If you want bacteria, have sourdough bread, have fruits, have buttermilk. You don't need to eat bacteria from the raw salads. That's rule
What
number
about
5.
then the prebiotics? Where do we get them from? The prebiotics?
There's a better way. I'm glad you asked me that question. A lot of people don't
There's
realize.
a salad revolution going on in the world, globally. So yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, in Ayurveda, strictly, they say don't eat raw foods. But because to accommodate the modern lifestyle, we did an analysis on who can't eat raw foods.
Okay.
Vata should under no circumstance eat raw salads. Vata is an ectomorph body type, which is skinny body. They don't put on weight. Raw salads creates dry, rough, cold emotions like fear of isolation, insecurity, anxiety, jealousy. And it causes restlessness and anxiety in the mind. Raw salads is too dry and rough, and the body is already very dry and rough. They must have only steamed salads or lubricated salads with olive oil or ghee in it. Okay, Pitta can have raw salads because they have a high metabolic fire. They'll be able to kill all the parasites. Kapha can have raw salads before a meal because they need to lose some weight. Vata under no circumstance should touch a raw salad. Better than eating a raw salad. I'll tell you, the vegetable has crossed so many hands. It is no more farm to table nowadays. From the farmer, it is going to the lorry truck driver. He doesn't have a hygiene. He's touching your vegetable. He's just throwing it. I have seen trucks being, upturned on the streets and people taking vegetables off the streets and packaging it and putting in fancy showrooms. You are buying shoes in a showroom and you're buying vegetables off the street. That's another problem with us. How ridiculous is that, right? And the vegetables, in the showroom are also not clean nowadays. What is the guarantee that the person who packaged it didn't have a cold or a cough? Correct? So if you steam your salads little bit, add some salt, pepper, some lemon juice, some vinegar, some olive oil, at least you're helping that vegetable to release some juices. It becomes self-lubricating in nature. It doesn't
Retain the
cause dryness,
nutrients.
toughness.
So does
Sorry?
it retain the nutrients?
Yes, because see, when I'm taking a
After having
salad bowl,
steamed or
I'm
cooked them?
steaming. Yeah, see, I take a pan and I put my salads in that. And I put some salt, pepper, and few teaspoons of water, and I cover the lid.
Okay.
The juices get released and absorbed in the same salad. In fact, it is becoming easier for me to absorb that salad now.
Mm.
I'm not throwing away the juice. I'm taking the salad as is, and it's moist, well lubricated, well spiced. That actually stimulates my metabolic fire. So Priya saying, what is the
Priya's
fifth
asking
point?
the fifth point, please. Yeah, we stopped at 4.
Let me recollect. What did I say first? Enhance your gut
First-
flora by eating raw fruits. Eat local, live global. Eat
Seasonal.
seasonal. Then number 4 was
Raw salads. That was raw salads? No, the fifth
place
was,
raw
yeah, that was
cooked food. Number 5, the other way to enhance your gut is do not have foods that are viruddha ahar. Viruddha ahar means food combinations that are toxic or poisonous in nature. So the fifth point is viruddha ahar. This is a long topic by itself. So you can take a pen and paper and write down the combinations that are allowed and combinations that are not allowed. Under viruddha ahar, point number 1, honey should never be cooked. Yes, Kritika, in general, we should prefer steamed salads than raw. Yes, you got it right. Okay, now I'll tell you the combinations. Priya, I'm coming to that. The viruddha ahar means the combinations that are not permitted. Viruddha means anti, ahar means food, bad combinations of food. Rule number 1 under the point 5, do not cook honey. Honey becomes poisonous when it's cooked. I think we covered that in the last session also. Honey, when it's cooked or when it's put in hot water or milk above 30 degrees Celsius, releases beeswax and pollen grain, which is poisonous, causes constriction, and releases amah or poison inside the body. It can cause organ damage in the long run. Honey is medicine, not food. You take it raw, organic, and locally sourced. Again, why locally sourced? It has a local digestive enzyme. Okay, that is rule number 1 for honey. Rule number 2 for milk. Milk does not mix with any fruit, vegetable, grain, pulses, meat, because it becomes poisonous, with the exception of mango. Mango can be mixed with milk because it helps it absorbing nutrition. Apple milkshake, banana milkshake is also poisonous. If I make it and leave it on the kitchen sill for 30 minutes, come back, it turns black. That means it is poisonous combination. Okay, so mango is the only thing that can be mixed with milk. In the vegetables, carrot ka halwa, loki ka halwa is admissible because it has been perfected over hundreds of years by our ancestors. It has not created any reaction. Rice and kheer, I'm coming to that. So under vegetables, loki ka halwa, carrot ka halwa is permissible. Avocado can be mixed with milk. If you're underweight and struggling to put on weight, if you mix avocado and milk, you'll put on weight better for a Vata Prakriti. Then in the vegetables, there's one more vegetable. It sounds gross, but garlic, 1 pot of garlic boiled in 1 glass of milk can be had if you're having inflammation and pain in the body. It reduces inflammation. Do not take it without consulting a doctor. It can cause nausea because it's a bitter combination. Then in the grains and pulses, your besan ka laddu, motichur ka laddu, rice with kheer, that can be had because they don't react with each other. For hundreds of years, we've been making this recipe. It has never reacted with each other. Apple milkshake, banana milkshake was never part of our culture before. It's a recent invention. Ever since these blenders came, these commercial companies, in order to sell the blenders, started a smoothie revolution. Do not fall for other people's propaganda. Listen to your elders, eat the foods that they ate. Okay. Now we're done with milk. Milk can also be mixed with ghee at bedtime. 1 glass of milk with ghee, which I told you helps in releasing constipation. Milk can be mixed with spices like cinnamon, cardamom, clove, ginger powder, pepper, star anise, saffron, nutmeg. Nutmeg helps in improving sleep. Milk can be mixed with also dry fruits like badam, pista. We make masala doodh. Delicious. Have it once in a while. I haven't had milk in months because I've become intolerant to the packaged milk. So whenever I get access to a Gaushala doodh, like we get Gaushala milk in Bangalore, from the cow directly, from the farm directly, that I can have as masala doodh. So we're done with milk. Viruddha ahar, honey and milk is done. Don't even mix honey with milk. Milk with good jaggery is also fine. That's a sweetener. In sweeteners, you can have sugar, unrefined, kadi shakkar ya misri bolte hai usko. You can take that. You can also have good or maple syrup, never honey. Mixing milk with honey has become a fad nowadays. People are putting 1 glass of hot water with lemon and honey in it, thinking they lose weight. You're not losing weight, you're losing muscles and organs. So you think you're losing weight, you're actually losing health. Okay, so don't do that. Now, the third is fruits. Fruits cannot be mixed with vegetables. Fruits cannot be mixed with milk. Fruits cannot be mixed with grains and pulses. It becomes poisonous. The rule with fruits is eat it alone or leave it alone. Remember this line for the rest of your life. Eat it alone or leave it alone. When you eat fruits, keep 1 hour gap before you eat the next meal. Don't let fruits get mixed with anything, with the exception of mango and milk.
You also want to cover how much each category of food takes in our digestive system, what you touched upon last time, so they'll get a fair idea how much gap they can leave in between each category of food.
Why not? Good idea. So like covered, honey, milk, fruits, vegetables can be mixed only with grains and pulses. You know why we do that? Grains and pulses takes a lot of time to digest because they have no mobility and roughage. When I mix equal portion of grains and pulses with equal portion of vegetables, the roughage from vegetables helps it move down. So that's the last combination. Vegetables should never be mixed with milk. I know a lot of people are making green smoothies with a little yogurt and fruits in it. It's the worst, most dangerous combination. Yogurt cannot be mixed with any fruit under any circumstance. Blueberry, cranberry yogurt, flavored yogurt is very bad. It's a commercial propaganda to sell. Please don't fall for it. Yogurt can be mixed with honey. Yogurt can be mixed with kheera, cucumber, or carrot. Okay? Have you seen yogurt mixed with dahi balla? Urad ka? It causes gas because it is not a good combination. But we somehow have it. Dahi papri chaat, it is mixed with tamarind. It causes gas. But we still have it because it's okay. That combination is okay. Once in a while, we do it for taste. Once in a while, don't overdo it. Now, coming to how long it takes for each food to get digested. Fruits takes 3 hours. 1 hour in the stomach, 1 hour in the small intestine, 1 hour in the large intestine. Vegetables takes 6 hours. So that means if I'm having a fruit salad, give it 1 hour gap. Let it move from the stomach to the small intestine. The stomach is empty. It'll start burping already. It's called an empty stomach dakar, or a growling of the stomach saying, hey, I'm ready for the next meal. The fruit salad is gone. Into the small intestine, it will not react. Between the stomach and small intestine, the pipe is very small. The passage is very small, so it will not get mixed. Vegetables takes 2 hours in the stomach, 2 hours in the small intestine, 2 hours in the large intestine. So when you're having a vegetable salad without paneer and cottage cheese in it, you get hungry within 2 hours. Grains and pulses, including milk and dry fruits, takes 18 hours. 6 hours in the stomach, 6 hours in the small intestine, 6 hours in the large intestine. So if you have plain moong dal khichdi or dal bati without any vegetables, for 6 hours, you don't get hungry if you've noticed. But if I add vegetables to it, then it moves down faster within 3 hours. Okay, so a lot of monks and sages have only moong dal khichdi once a day. That's enough for them. If you're having meat, remember, it takes 72 hours in the body, 24 hours in the stomach, 24 hours in the small intestine, and 24 hours in the large intestine. So meat, ideally, please don't eat it for breakfast and dinner at least. If you can't switch to a vegetarian lifestyle, at least make sure your breakfast and dinner is light, healthy, vegetarian, vegan foods. So these are the combinations I advise. If you want to take up any questions, Sujata, I'm more than happy.
There were quite a few questions. So somebody asked, should we...
if you don't mind me moving while answering the questions, my legs asleep.
So eat fruit at 8 and 4. Do not mix fruit with anything. Only mango milk is good, not even with vegetables. It becomes toxic too. Okay, she's answering, I think. She's answering, sorry.
She's
what's your take on cow's milk? Is that better than almond milk?
See, vegan milk, which is made from coconut and almond, is easier to digest because it's plant-based. Cow's milk, if it comes from a cruelty-free cow farm, without any estrogen, hormones injected in it, antibiotics injected in it.
Dimple, I think we can't hear you. You've frozen. Guys, let's be patient. Dimple, you're not audible. You've just frozen. Yeah, now you are. Yeah. Now it's fine. You're still not audible.
Am I back?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm back. I'm sorry. I think I had a little signal issue. All right. So what was I coming to is cow's milk, as long as it's not injected with estrogen, hormones, antibiotics, and it has come from a cruelty-free cow farm, it will not create any hormonal imbalance for you, because otherwise it generally leads to gynecological disorders like PCOD, PCOS, and hormonal disorders. So if you don't have access to cruelty-free cow farms, switch to plant-based milk. It's easier to digest. And again, I repeat the point, have almond milk or coconut milk. Please do not touch soya milk. Soya milk is made with human intervention. It has no digestive enzymes in it.
Okay. So the next one is, Rashi, have we answered your question? Hopefully, yes. Can we have hot water with lemon in the morning?
Yes, you can. Hot water with lemon is fine, but please do not put honey in it.
Fruits with dry fruits, okay?
Yes, fruits and dry fruits come from the same family, but remember, dry fruits are dehydrated. They have no moisture in it. Fruits have moisture. Fruits requires only 1 hour in the stomach, but dry fruits will require at least 6 hours in the stomach. So the better way to have dry fruits is soak it overnight, like almonds, figs, dates, raisins. Soak it overnight and take it in the morning, empty stomach, chew it separately. Don't mix it with fruits because it's very easy to chew fruits. It takes more time to chew dry fruits. So don't mix it if you can. But otherwise, it doesn't cause any toxic effect inside the body.
It's just that they take different, there are different digestive processes for both.
Correct.
So is it true that omega-3 improves the membrane of the intestines, restricting the food particles from entering our bloodstream?
Could you just repeat that? Is
it true that omega-3 improves the membrane of the intestines, restricting the food particles from entering our bloodstream?
Yes. So I'll tell you what is a better source of omega-3. Instead of just having omega-3 capsules, this means cook your food with good lubricant in it, like ghee, clarified butter, 100 washed ghee. Have you heard of the 100 washed ghee? That's extremely healthy. It heals the gut lining. And also having cold pressed oils like cold pressed coconut oil, cold pressed almond oil, cold pressed sesame oil in your cooking also lines the gut wall in such a way that food doesn't get leaked into the bloodstream. So don't depend on omega capsules or artificial intake of supplements. Make sure that you're cooking your food right.
Okay. What is a good combination with paneer? Is fish easier to digest than other meats? I think you've already covered about the...
Paneer, the good combination for paneer is all your paneer butter masala and palak paneer, paneer paratha, they're all perfectly fine. And fish is not easy to digest because 1, the mercury levels in the ocean is very high. It carries more mercury poisoning than your regular foods. And 2, it does take 72 hours. And in fact, by the way, I'll tell you the worst combination of fish. I've had an industrialist, an 800 crore industrialist, coming to me with chronic gas issues so bad that he had to take an emergency landing of the flight. Mixing seafood with wine can be dangerous and poisonous.
Okay. Is moong dal chilla good for everyone and good option for dinner?
Very good option. It's 3 dosha in nature. For a vata, just ensure to have more coconut oil and ghee in it.
Okay. Probiotic suggestions, please can you repeat?
Probiotic suggestions, like I said, raw fruits, don't have juices, don't have smoothies. God gave you teeth to chew your fruits. Don't put it in a blender. It's not the blender's job to digest your food. Okay, so chew your fruits. Juices are only during summers when you're getting dehydrated very quickly, and juices are only, God forbid, you get hospitalized and you need to intake some nutrition. Only then you take juices. Okay, so fruits, raw fruits, yogurt, buttermilk, sourdough bread, and even kombucha, sauerkraut, and kefir are also good sources of probiotics. Fermented foods like idli, dosa, dhokla, beer, and wine are also good sources of probiotics.
But don't the probiotics of idli, dhokla, once they're cooked, don't they die?
No.
They still, okay.
They're still good bacteria. Once you steam it, it becomes easy to digest it, because if you take the dough directly, it makes you gassy. So what happens when you take it raw? The fermentation continues in the stomach, affecting your organs. But at least when you steam it, the fermentation stops, the bacteria remains.
Okay. Are sprouted grains good?
Sprouted grains are excellent. But again, vata cannot consume it. They cannot consume such complex foods. Pitta and kapha can.
Okay. And your take on water consumption? I think
Vata should have maximum amount of water, maybe 3 liters also a day, because they tend to be very dry and rough, and a dry, rough gut causes anxiety. Pitta can have about 2.5, 3 liters. Kapha can have just 2 liters. Too much water consumption leads to water retention for them. They tend to put on weight with even water. Have you heard of people who say that just by smelling food, I put on weight? That's an endomorph body type, which is kapha. Unfortunately, they put on weight quickly, but they struggle to lose weight. So don't have more than 2 liters of water for a kapha body type. You don't need more than that.
I think ideally they all need to find out their body types, their prakriti.
Yes.
Before brushing, can we drink hot water and lemon without mixing honey in it?
So check your tongue. Remember, I said the tongue is coated with toxins from your stomach at night. So what happens when you're lying horizontal? The toxins come from the stomach and settle on the tongue. So check your tongue health. Is it clean and pink? If it's clean and pink, that means you're healthy. You can drink 200 ml of warm water before brushing your teeth. It's very healthy because it takes the bacteria from your mouth into the stomach. But if it is white in color, your tongue, that means toxins. So please brush your teeth, cleanse your tongue, spit out the toxins, and then drink warm water. So till your tongue becomes pink, don't drink water empty stomach.
Okay. So Harshil is asking, how are lipoma caused? I don't know whether he means lymphoma or lipoma. Is surgical treatment required, and how do you treat it?
So for disease care, I refrain from giving advice on a live chat because I can't see you. I can't do your diagnosis. I don't know your genetic condition. Kindly do a full-fledged consultation. Don't take your body lightly. Doing an Ayurvedic consultation once a year is like an investment in your body, like doing a master checkup. So I would advise you to please do a consultation ASAP now that I know there is an issue.
Yeah. And microgreens, do they do any good? Microgreens?
Yeah, they're very healthy. They're all loaded with minerals, and some of them actually help in boosting your hemoglobin levels and iron levels for a woman especially. Remember, all greens are loaded with iron. And even cooking in an iron skillet, have you noticed making dosa or crepes or even deep frying or baking your vegetables in a skillet is excellent. Iron skillet. That also improves your iron levels in the body.
And wheatgrass juice?
Yes,
can you have it in the morning?
Is anti-cancerous. Again, it is not for all 3 body types. There's a rule in Ayurveda: eat it only if your body needs it. Too much of good is also bad. It can cause other imbalances in your body. So take wheatgrass juice for 15 days, take a break for another 15 days, and again start it for 15 days, take a break. Have wheatgrass juice, sometimes have aloe vera juice, sometimes you can have amla juice. Keep changing it. Don't become addicted to one habit.
Throw some light on ghee as first thing in the morning.
Oh, it's excellent. If you have dehydration issues and constipation issues, take a glass of warm water, put 1 teaspoon of ghee in it. It helps in preventing dehydration because ghee helps in absorbing moisture, and it also pulls heavy metals out of your body. So Dr. Miki Mehta was one of our clients and a very famous holistic health guru. What he does is he takes 1 teaspoon of ghee, he puts a little turmeric in it, and he also puts a little pepper in it. He makes a paste and licks it. He says it really helps in improving his immunity and boosting his health. You can also put ghee in your cooked food like rice and dal. It dissolves quickly. That's a better way of consuming ghee, along with hot water and ghee.
I think it's a desi panacea for all diseases. Isn't soya tofu good for hypothyroid?
Honestly,
already covered.
There are other foods better for hypothyroidism. Hypothyroidism means irregular metabolism, very low metabolic fire. Please do not have soya that has no digestive enzyme. The best treatment for hypothyroidism, by the way, is fasting. Going on long intermittent fasting, sometimes for 24 hours, is better for your body than to eat food every day. So you can even fast for 16 hours every day, and then engage in fasting at least 3 to 5 times a month, where you do not eat any solid food, have only water, because you're giving your body the rest to boost its metabolic fire. Otherwise, you have a very low metabolic fire. Tofu is definitely no.
Fasting is such an overlooked cure, honestly. And I think it was
a Japanese scientist.
Circadian biology by having an early dinner and, then a hard stop and then waking up early. I think it's just, a cure.
And there's a Japanese scientist, by the way, who got a Nobel Prize
for autophagy,
for doing research on fasting. And I'm like, goodness, for 5,000 years, your grandmothers and mothers and ancestors have been saying you didn't care. Now somebody else proved it and got a Nobel Prize for it. That's the problem with India. We don't have IP on our own intelligence. Be it yoga, Ayurveda, fasting.
The West says it, we follow it blindly.
We look for validation from the white skin.
Absolutely.
That's our problems.
Can we have tea with soaked dry fruits?
You know, eat your dry fruits, give it time. Like, you know, an almond, more than 32 times you need to chew. So why do you want to mix it with tea? Have your dry fruits, wait for some time, wait for 5 minutes, let it go to the stomach. Give each food individual attention so it can be absorbed, assimilated well. Then drink your chai. Don't mix it. You know, the things that you can mix with chai is snacks like chana and kurmur. Those can be mixed with chai because there's just snacks, chana, chewing chana while having chai. That is okay, but not rich foods like dry fruits.
And what about pickles and papad?
So pickles is actually
probiotics.
It is. It comes under probiotics because it's fermented. By the way, ghee is also probiotic. It is fermented in a jar, right? It lasts for 1 year on the shelf. So pickles is a tamasic food, which means it creates negative emotions in the body, technically like, you know, gluttony, sloth, envy, jealousy. But if you have only sattvic foods, it creates spiritual ego. So when you take a bowl of khichdi, putting a dollop of pickle in it, make sure that you're grounded and humble all your life. So having a little pickle in your diet is great. Papad, don't roast it, deep fry it. Deep fried in ghee or deep fried in coconut oil will increase lubrication in your body and you will not fall sick. It's actually fine if it's deep fried, but roasted is not. And all these dry roasting techniques that you guys have come up with nowadays with these machines saying no oil, no ghee, it's the worst for your health.
But not these commercially available pickles, right?
See, unfortunately, not all our grandmothers and mothers know the recipes of pickles nowadays. So you have to rely on outside help. Look at organic butti cottage industries. They make very good pickles.
Yeah. Is it okay to take sprouts in the morning for breakfast?
Again, the first thing I recommend is having 200 ml of warm water, followed by some digestive herbal teas made with either cinnamon, cardamom, clove, grated ginger, pepper, star anise, turmeric, or, you know, cumin seeds, fennel seeds, coriander seeds, cardamom, and a pinch of carom seeds. Use any of the herbs and spices first, make a tea and drink it empty stomach. Then eat fruits, then have sprouts, because sprouts takes 18 hours in the stomach. So do you want to block your stomach with something that heavy already? Eat fruits first, enhance your gut flora, then have sprouts.
Okay, I'm not taking those questions which we've already covered because they're repetitive. What foods can people with PCOD and cholesterol have?
For PCOD, rule number 1, stop all dairy-based products. Milk, yogurt, buttermilk, cheese, paneer, everything except for ghee, because ghee is fermented. It has no milk solids in it. Do not have any estrogen-based foods because PCOD happens also because your body's inability to digest its own estrogen. Then why should you have the estrogen of another animal? That's rule number 1, PCOD. And have a lot of fresh green vegetables to improve your hemoglobin level. Carrot, beetroot, spinach, pomegranate. They're excellent for uterus health and also for producing blood in the body. For cholesterol, do not have oily foods and do not have salt in your diet. Have pink salt and have ghee instead in your diet. Ghee is better for cholesterol. It's good fat. And also soak fenugreek, 1 teaspoon in 1 glass of water overnight. Next morning, boil it and bring it to half. Filter it, throw away the seeds and drink this empty stomach. This will also bring your cholesterol levels down.
Okay. And can we have carrot, beetroot, tomato juice?
Instead of juice, I prefer you make a soup out of it.
Soup. Okay, yeah.
Yes. Same ingredients, make a soup, put some salt and pepper, heat it, boil it well, and drink it.
Olive oil usage, your take?
Olive oil again is for European climates where the weather is very heavy. During the winters, it becomes very heavy. Olive oil is light in nature. So light olive oil is used in European climates to balance the body. In India, you must have locally sourced oils. In south of India, you must have cold-pressed coconut oil. If you're living in Western India, cold-pressed groundnut oil. If you're living in north of India, cold-pressed sesame oil. Have oils that are cold-pressed and locally sourced because the grains grown in your area have the bacterial enzyme that you need for your immunity.
Wow. Greek yogurt, good to have.
Again, like I said, for yogurt, it's only for Vata Prakriti. Pitta and Kapha should not have it. Pitta gets burning sensation.
Yeah. I'm just filtering the question. So
take your time, Sujata.
Marinating paneer in curd.
Sorry?
What about marinating paneer in curd?
Both are from the same family. As long as you cook it well in a dish and then consume it, it's fine. Don't mix it on your plate or don't mix it in your mouth directly and consume it. Then the reaction will happen in the stomach.
Okay. What about In this environment, is it necessary to have vitamin C and biotin supplements for good skin and hair?
In this environment, is it important to have vitamin C capsules? I don't recommend it. You're basically paying for expensive urine. Instead of having 5 mg, you're having 100 mg or 50 mg.
Amla.
Only a little bit gets absorbed in your body, the rest gets put in the urine. Instead, have 1 amla per day in the morning. 1 amla is equal to 20 citric fruits, which is 5 glasses of orange juice. It is the best source of vitamin C. It's anti-carcinogenic, prevents cancer, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antiviral. It will also boost your immunity against COVID-19. So have 1 amla per day.
Can beetroot, there are so many questions. Is poha good for all dosha?
Poha is good for vata and pitta. Kapha, no. Kapha should not have any rice-based, wheat-based, pasta-based items if they're wanting to lose weight. But once in a while, have a cheat meal.
Yeah,
you can have poha.
That leads me to the next question. Any tips for losing fat?
Follow the circadian rhythm. Wake up with sun between 5 to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Have raw, warm water, juices and herbal teas. Juices in the sense of the herbal teas, raw fruits, cooked breakfast, raw salad at 12 o'clock, then cooked lunch, then eat your dinner before sunset. Go on an intermittent fasting for 16 hours. Do not eat food after sunset. You will be surprised how much weight you lose in 7 days.
Yeah. Should coconut oil be used for oil pulling? Is it good?
Very good. Everybody should do it in this day and age because all of us have anxiety. Oil pulling with coconut oil removes caries and cavities, prevents facial palsy and neurological disorders like Parkinson, Alzheimer's, insomnia, improves blood circulation to the face and to the 5 senses and the brain, and reduces anxiety and stress and depression also.
And it's also antibacterial and antiviral. So we need it right
for your gum and dental health.
Yeah. I don't take anything in the morning for at least 2 hours as I'm doing pranayam and exercises. Is that okay?
Very good. Yeah. Very good. Because in Jainism, we say Nokarsi and then Porsi, which means wait for 48 minutes after sunrise to consume something. Then the second thing is wait for 48 minutes into 2 or 48 minutes into 3. So 48 minutes into 1 is recommended for Vata Prakriti. Don't eat anything for first 48 minutes of sunrise. For the second Prakriti, don't eat anything for about 96 minutes. For the third Prakriti, don't eat anything for about 142 minutes. 144 minutes. So yeah, it's close to 3 hours. So yeah, it's very good. Not eating anything for the first 2-3 hours. You're allowing the metabolic fire to go up in the stomach, and then you eat when you're hungry. That's another rule for gut flora, gut health. Eat when you're hungry and eat 80% of your appetite.
And chew well.
Yes, 32 times.
So can we, again, Viruddha Ahar, can we have dal and yogurt together?
You know, if you're making dal makhani and putting some yogurt in it, to make it softer. Sometimes you put yogurt in a paneer butter masala to make it creamy. Then it's fine. But don't mix it on your plate and eat it. Let it settle.
How long should we soak our pulses?
For cancer patients, 24 hours. Keep changing the water.
Can you repeat?
For cancer patients, 24 hours, keep changing the water. For regular Vata Prakriti, soak it overnight. For a Pitta and Kapha, at least 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
But soaking it overnight is healthy for all body types.
And does Amla suit all body types?
It does, but because Amla is sour, it doesn't suit Pitta because they get a burning sensation. So they should have Amla soaked in good pani, which is your jaggery water, or Amla soaked in some sweetener, unrefined sugar. Have you seen the sticky sweet Amla? So Vata and Pitta should have sweet Amla. Kapha can have the raw Amla.
Which dosha should avoid? I don't know. Tinda, tuar. I don't know. I can't understand this.
Tinda and tuar are vegetables. Tinli and tuar. They're good for all 3 body types. So please have it. All green vegetables with the exception of celery. Celery has been overdone. Celery is not suitable for Vata body type. It actually causes more anxiety for them. It reduces inflammation for Pitta and Kapha and prevents cancer, but not for Vata.
Okay, Eno used for dhokla and baking soda for cakes are okay to use. Does it cause harm or aggravate any dosha?
No, not at all. In fact, those are your cheat meals. Putting a little baking soda in the cake allows the cake to become more fluffy. That's again good bacteria. ENO in your dhokla is required because otherwise you can't digest the dhokla. It'll become too thick. You need to make it soft and fluffy. So it's fine. And in fact, we have ENO when we have gas trouble, right? So it's
Okay, there is
perfectly fine.
someone whose daughter-in-law is in her 7th month of pregnancy and she suffers from sciatica pain. What can you suggest for her to lessen the pain?
Okay, there are two things you can do. If you have access to an Ayurvedic doctor or an Ayurvedic clinic nearby, there's a treatment called Kati Basti, where they create a mold in the lower back and pour medicated oil in the mold to reduce the pain between the joints, nerves, and muscles. Because sciatica is either the nerves rubbing against each other or the disc moving out of place, causing the pain to go all the way from the butt to the toes. So I have suffered from sciatica and I recovered in 3 days by doing this treatment. If you don't have access to an Ayurvedic doctor due to social distancing, just take coconut oil, massage it in circular motions. Do not put pressure because she's pregnant. Massages are usually not recommended for pregnant women. Just do that and avoid all vata inducing foods like cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, aubergine, and white potatoes. And even lemon, tomato, and tamarind. These are the 8 things you forbid till the pain goes down.
Okay, can we cook in Panch Dhatu Kadhai? Is it healthy?
Yeah, it's fine. So, using earthenware like pot, mud pot, or iron skillet, or drinking water from a copper glass, or eating on a silver plate, silver spoon, having sone ki barak on your food once in a while, all these are very healthy.
Okay, what's your take on copper enriched water? This is my question.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Because it alkalizes your stomach and cancer cannot exist in an environment that's alkaline. But please have copper glasses or copper dishes that have a big mouth so you can see the hygiene of the copper bottle from inside. If it turns black, it can start becoming poisonous in nature. Clean your copper vessel every single morning with pitamri powder and then soak it in a bowl of water with lemon and hot water and boil it for a few seconds. Your copper should be absolutely sterile and clean.
What about the copper, the vessels, the pots that we have? Can we use it on a regular basis every day?
Yes.
Consistently?
Cook your food in that. I prefer you heat your food in it. After the cooking is done, in either a steel ki kadai or a iron skillet, then you can heat your food in the copper vessel or serve your dal makhani and your gravy sabji in a copper vessel. It looks very pretty also. It absorbs a little bit of copper, becomes alkaline, and it's healthy.
Okay. So somebody took the dosha quiz on Prana website. If it gave me one definite answer, vata means no confusion here, right?
No
like
confusion.
you mentioned, if 2 come, there is a confusion there.
You don't get 2 at all. On my test, you'll get only 1 dosha at a time. If you feel that, okay, no, I have more symptoms than possible, I've checked off boxes in too many columns, then you might be a dual body type. Someone's asking, take on consuming water after meals immediately. Can I answer that?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Please
I'm struggling. There's so many questions.
Please do not have water after meals because it dilutes the digestive juices and washes it away. And then the food will be sitting unhealthy in your stomach. The best time to have water is early in the morning, 200 ml of water, 1 glass of water before breakfast, before lunch and dinner, half an hour before, so that it stimulates the saliva and the digestive juices. Then having 1 glass of water before taking a shower controls your blood pressure. Having 1 glass of water before bedtime prevents cardiac arrest.
Is protein from eggs good for the body?
Not required. It's a complex protein. The egg is born with a manual to become a chicken. It's not born with a manual to become protein that's easy to digest. Each one of us is born with a manual, right? That manual is very difficult for us to break down inside the body. The best sources of proteins are lentils and pulses and beans. And we have 300 kinds of lentils in India, 300 kinds of dals. Go big on lentils, buttermilk, yogurt, ghee, and even paneer, cottage cheese, and different kinds of cheese, milk solids. They're the best source of proteins.
Is dried brown amla good for health? Because the green amla is seasonal, so no availability problem.
Problem with dry ground amla is it becomes very pungent. Any dehydrated form of food in a herb powder form becomes more pungent or spicy. Like cinnamon, when you chew on it, is sweet. But when you make cinnamon powder, it becomes very spicy. So if you're going to have dry amla powder, I prefer if you dilute it in a little bit of water and some sweetener in it and then have it. Otherwise, it'll be too pungent for your body.
And can acidity and diarrhea people go on a mono diet? So firstly, what exactly is a mono diet? You want to touch upon that? Yeah.
So mono diet basically means eating the same meal every day for 7 days or 14 days. So you can have the same moong dal khichdi for lunch and dinner every day for the next 14 days. That gives your liver a holiday from digesting food because it doesn't have to calculate every now and then how to digest it. It goes into a detox mode or a catabolic state wherein it is flushing out toxins from the body. So mono diet is excellent. We must all do mono diet at least once every few months. Now, a person with acidity should definitely do mono diet because it takes the acids downwards. Eat only 80% of your appetite because if you eat full stomach, the acids are getting pushed upwards. Don't have oily and spicy food. And what's the other body type that did she ask for mono diet?
Acidity and no, can acidity and diarrhea people go on a mono diet? That was the only question.
Diarrhea also can have. In fact, for diarrhea, please have one banana, unripe banana. It helps in consolidating the waste. It has a sticky property, which helps in binding stools and preventing diarrhea.
Is it good to have curd with our lunch?
Like I said, only Vata Prakriti, not Pitta and Kapha.
An Ayurvedic remedy or a specific nourishment for heavy menstrual bleeding?
Please meet a doctor. There are multiple imbalances in your body. It's not one imbalance. Please meet a doctor. Until then, make sure to have a lot of carrot, beetroot, spinach soup, and pomegranate juice and grape juice to ensure blood circulation, blood generation, so that you don't end up getting low blood pressure and giddiness and dizziness. But please meet a doctor. This is a serious issue.
From where can we buy organic honey and Chyawanprash?
Any of your farmers market in Bombay, I recommend De Monte Parks, the original farmers market by Kavita Mukhi. There's also the farmers store. Any authentic farmers market will give you good, organic honey. For Chyawanprash, Ayurvedic brands like Vaidyaratnam, Sala, Nagarjuna, AVP, the better sources. Just check the sugar content when you buy Chyawanprash. If it has too much sugar in it, it's not good.
Stomach cramps in the morning and evening, is it because of long gap in meals or due to imbalance of any dosha?
Stomach cramps could be multiple reasons, to be honest. It could be because you're not drinking enough water, there's dryness and roughness, or because of the food combinations you're eating. That could also be one of the reasons. We need to analyze it deeply. It requires proper diagnosis of your lifestyle.
Would you recommend Gond Laddu for joint pains?
Why not? It's excellent. In fact, Gund Laddu increases the stickiness of your body and allows you to bind your cells together.
And what about Moringa? Moringa powder? Or Moringa
is excellent. I prefer if you have Moringa leaves, but if you don't have access to Moringa leaves, you'll get Moringa powder. You can put it in your dals, lentils and all, but cook it well. Don't have it dry and rough.
Oh, you need to cook the Moringa powder. You can't have it with your vegetable juice or your,
Like I said, water. I'm not a big fan of vegetable juices.
Or a clean glass of water?
No. Your absorption and assimilation is not 100%. I prefer you make a bowl of lentil, put 1 teaspoon of Moringa powder and stir it well and boil it well. You'll be able to absorb and assimilate the nutrition better. Otherwise, you're just paying for expensive urine.
And would it impact the taste of the dal?
It tastes great. It's got a slight bitter taste, which is why I said put it in dal, because dal is sweet in taste.
Yeah.
So balance.
Amla in vinegar and mustard powder, is it good? Amla in vinegar and mustard powder is
very heaty. Amla sour, vinegar is sour, mustard seed is hot. All three are very heaty combinations. Don't do it unless you're a Kapha Prakriti and you've been told by a doctor to do it. Don't do it.
How would you address acid reflux? I think, my God, I think your whole session today, I think,
is digestion.
The answer to this question, yeah.
But oily, spicy food. And number 3, eating a full stomach pushes the acids upward. Eat only 80% of your appetite. Follow the circadian rhythm of the sun. All your diseases will disappear within 7 days.
I'm such an advocate of fasting in sync with the circadian biology. It's worked wonders for me.
It does. And you've been through quite an experience yourself. You should tell them your story.
Yeah, but I think there are so many questions, so I don't want
I'll just briefly say to some people.
The audience will be like, no, we didn't bargain for this, There's too much.
No. Maybe I'll just say it in a sentence. Sujata is very humble, so she might not say it. She's a cancer survivor. She took the naturopathy route to cure her body of cancer, not the allopathy.
I did take, but there are a few things. Yeah, so okay, I'll break it down real fast. I mean, 2 minutes. I can be a poster child, Dimple, for gut illness to gut wellness. For the longest time, I suffered from acidity, bloating, low energy, leg cramps. And I didn't realize then that it was the result of a 22.5 year long course of antibiotics for tuberculosis in my ankle. And that abuse marked the beginning of the end of my gut microbiome symbiosis. But though I've been able to reverse it to a large extent, but it took me 12 years and a life-threatening disease last year for me to be able to figure that our gut is a foundation of our overall health. I mean, seriously.
Sujata, you're doing a fantastic job spreading awareness, creating knowledge, asking people to be more conscious of their choices so that they don't suffer the way you suffered. You had to go through your suffering to come to this moment of awakening where you could help the society better. So hats off to you. I'm really proud of the people who've survived and who are actually spreading a good message.
Okay, so we'll go back to the questions.
You're too humble, Sujata.
Okay, yeah, and Dimple, I also want to add that there are a few things I wish I had known earlier. I mean, before the cancer diagnosis last year. One, that antibiotics can wreak havoc with your system. It just wipes out the gut flora. So if anybody is taking a long course of antibiotics, please do something to rectify it, as soon as possible. Two, our 70 to 80% of immunity lives in our gut. So if our gut is compromised, our immunity is compromised, which is sacrosanct right now, in the post-COVID world. So yeah.
The faster people realize the value of good health and immunity,
absolutely,
the better our survival rate.
Totally. And the mind-body connection, it is so strong. It is so strong. So if we hold on to grudges or negative emotions like resentment or anger, it's bound to manifest itself in some disease, at some point of time. I think our entire lifestyle is reflected in our gut flora.
In fact, it's written in Ayurveda and proven by modern science that all diseases have a psychosomatic origin, which means suppression of anger, conflicting emotions, envy, jealousy, frustration, aggressiveness, excessive ambition, gluttony, greed. All of these negative emotions trigger diseases in the body.
Yeah. And I think if there is any sickness, you revive your gut health and you're good to go. All your medical issues will be taken care of.
True.
Yeah. So, and I think we'll go back to questions now.
If you have the time for it, because I know we started at 3.
So, I think, are you another 5 minutes? And then
yes, sure. Happy to.
It's for 20, almost 4:20. So just a few more questions and then we'll wrap up. What can we have for low blood pressure?
First of all, low blood pressure, you need to get your sugar and your salt levels up. Have a plate of raw cucumber salad with some salt, pepper, and cumin powder before lunch every day for 1 hour before lunch. You can also have a glass of lemonade, lemon, grated ginger, pepper, salt, and cumin powder. With shadrasa and taste, please have a glass of lemonade immediately to get your blood pressure up because it can cause giddiness and blackout, and that's dangerous. So definitely get your BP up because I've suffered from low BP most of my childhood.
Okay, constipation, what's the remedy?
See, again, constipation, like I said, wake up between 5 to 7 a.m. because the colon is most active between 5 to 7 a.m. Follow the circadian rhythm. Have more roughage in your diet, which is raw salads before lunch, raw fruits at 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Do not eat dinner after sunset. That's the biggest cause of constipation. Cut out complex fruits from your diet, like wheat, fine flour. Wheat is also fine once in a while, chakki kata, but maida, non-veg, alcohol, smoking, dry fruits, too many dry fruits is also not good. Do not have banana in your diet. That also causes constipation because banana helps in binding stools. Having more fluidy foods in your diet and more fluids early in the morning, empty stomach, 3 to 4 cups to create pressure to allow the waste to come out is better. And ghee in your diet, 1 glass of milk with 1 teaspoon of ghee at bedtime can release constipation if it's mild. If it's chronic, you have to use Ayurvedic herbal medicines like purgatives called Brihatrifla Churnam and Avipati Churnam at bedtime with doctor's prescription to help release constipation.
What's a good place to start if we want to move to an Ayurvedic lifestyle?
Get onto our website, sign up for a masterclass. We do a 5-day masterclass. By the way, we've launched 1 masterclass with Jain X Prana. Jain, deemed to be university, is now certifying all our students. Our student strength has gone up. Earlier, we were doing 30 students per batch. Now we will be doing 1,000 students per batch or 2,000. The only difference is I will be teaching for 5 days. You get to learn Ayurveda and you get one live Q&A session with me at the end of it. So you do not get to interact with me directly everyday basis, but you still get to learn Ayurveda. We'll get you the notes. We'll email it to you. Definitely consider signing up for it.
So is it a repeat of what you and the Jain University already did? Okay.
So we did it on June 26th, and we had about 56 students from 7 countries. July 7th is my next course. They've subsidized the fees greatly to 4,500 per student. Earlier, I was charging 12,500 for a small group of students. 4,500 is the fee, and it starts on July 7th. The website is called www.juxprana.com.
Okay. How to reduce the stomach heat?
Sabja water and tender coconut water.
Spirulina powder. What about?
It's fine. It's a good source of protein. It's a first source of protein, but don't overdo anything because all these fads are short-lived. They suddenly come saying, oh, this is great for your health. Again, understand the commercial propaganda of the person selling it to you. So don't overdo anything. Once in a while, it's fine.
Yeah. Past 2 decades, we've all been so obsessed with wellness and superfoods and all, and still where are we? I mean, like the chronic diseases and the autoimmune diseases are just skyrocketing.
See, just like how you're conscious of what you put in your mouth, be conscious of what information you're consuming in your brain also.
Yeah.
Don't consume every advertisement that is out there, every sales tactic. Then you become a victim of all the superfoods.
Dates also have to be soaked overnight or only almonds?
Dates, if it's soaked overnight, is excellent for reducing anxiety, constipation, and for vata imbalance. For women especially, dates soaked overnight is great. Even for constipation, you can soak dates, prunes, and raisins overnight and have the water along with a swollen dry fruit.
Any suggestions for bronchitis?
Bronchitis is a kapha imbalance. To strengthen your kapha health and to reduce bronchitis, you need to have 1 teaspoon of raw organic honey with half teaspoon of grated ginger, a pinch of pepper, and a pinch of turmeric. You can even add a pinch of cinnamon, make a paste out of it, and eat it every single morning, empty stomach.
Can high BP tablets affect gut flora?
It depends. It depends on who has given those tablets. What are the tablets made of? I cannot comment on it because it's somebody else who's prescribed the medicines.
How fasting helps us and the right way to do it?
Start with intermittent fasting. Don't eat food after sunset. 16 hours of intermittent fasting is good for kapha, 14 hours for pitta, and 12 hours for vata. Start with that. Second, you can once in a month go on a water fasting wherein you don't eat any food for the whole day, only boiled water between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Don't even drink water after sunset. Next day, you break your fast with cinnamon, cardamom, clove, grated ginger, pepper, star anise boiled in water. That's a warm tea. The second thing you can do is also fruit fasting, having only fruits all day up to 5 o'clock, raw fruits, no juices, no milk. At 5 o'clock, you can break your fast with sabudana khichdi. Sabudana is tapioca soaked overnight, and you cook it with white potatoes, salt, and pepper. Have that at bedtime. At 5 o'clock. This is called Shivji fasting. It's done on Monday. The reason being, it sharpens your faculties of the mind and it brings you to a state of Shiva, heightened sense of awareness. That's also great fasting. You can also do salt-free fasting for a day if you're suffering from high BP, having only chana, which is your black chana, and kurmur for lunch, one meal, and know the food the whole day. Helps in reducing all your blood pressure and high salt-related health issues. And inflammation in the body also comes down to that.
And what about dry fasting, Dimple? I mean, your take on
Very good.
waterless fasting?
Very good, very good. It forces your bad cells to eat your good cells. Oh, sorry, the other way around. I'm so sorry. It forces your good cells to eat your bad cells, and thus it helps in improving your immunity and good health.
Right. So I think we'll wrap up. I mean, there are so many questions. And also I would advise the viewers, if they've not attended her first session on Pavitra Connect, it's streaming live, it's streaming on YouTube on our page Pavitra Connect. So just visit that. And thank you so much, Dimple, for gracing this platform once again. You covered the fundamentals so beautifully and answered all these questions. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you and Neha Arora and Pavitra Connect for creating such a beautiful platform for people to understand the importance of good health. So hats off to you guys.
Thank you. And thank you to all our viewers. We need to move towards we need a movement for a healthier world now. So let's revive our gut to revive our overall wellness. Yes.
True. You know, there is a beautiful saying. I must, bring that here. It's a philosophical saying that I am within the universe and the entire universe is within me. Your gut flora is equal to the billions of stars in the galaxy. So if you can enhance the galaxy in your body, you're in a state of good health.
Yeah, our entire lifestyle is reflected in our gut flora. So,
Yes.
on that note, thank you, Dimple. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our viewers. Thank you. Have a
Thank you
Pavitra
so much,
day.
Sujata. Thank you, Neha, and thank you, Pavitra Connect.